To get that unfolding started, I'm delighted to be joined by GBNews political correspondent Olivia Utley, who is sitting here right next to me. Let's start with the bold assertion that I put at the very top of that introduction. Do you sense that over the last, let's say, week, things have begun to look a little better for Rishi Sunak?
Yeah, I think they definitely have. The Windsor framework was hugely positive, and it was greeted with real warmth from almost all Conservative MPs. Now, the DUP isn't completely happy about it, but the noises of rebellion we heard from the ERG was far, far smaller than expected. Yeah. The general consensus in Westminster is that it's a good deal. As for Rishi Sunak's poll ratings, what I find really interesting is that week after week we see Labour beating the Conservatives in the polls by percentage points that we've almost never seen before. And Starmer is a little more popular than Sunak, but the interesting thing is it's only a little bit. With Labour so far ahead in the polls, you would expect to see Starmer's ratings far above Sunak's, but we're simply not seeing that. Also, we're having the lockdown files obviously coming out now, and they present Matt Hancock in a truly embarrassing light. But actually, Rishi Sunak is...
Well, especially today, because it's all about how bad did the kiss and cuddle look.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed even talking about it. It's so just awful. But it presents Rishi Sunak in a pretty good light. He's pretty much the only Tory who comes out of it well. He was pushing back against some of the more draconian lockdown restrictions, which everything we've seen subsequently has proved that he was right to have those concerns. And it shows just how much, while all of the pro-lockdown ministers have sort of politicised the situation, Rishi Sunak was just asking, wait, is there going to be a cost-benefit analysis, etc. So Rishi Sunak's stakes have definitely risen in the last few days. I don't think it's too bold at all to suggest that.
What about the other truly extraordinary story that broke late yesterday and then overnight in much, much more detail? And that is that Sue Gray, the author of that original, much-awaited report into what actually happened at Partygate with all of the photographs and the rest of it, and she was hailed to the rafters as being one of the most experienced and most brilliant civil servants ever to have graced Westminster and Whitehall. What was she thinking about to even contemplate accepting the role of Chief of Staff to the leader of His Majesty's opposition? Yeah,
well, it feels like a bit of an own goal, both for Keir Starmer and for Sue Gray herself. She accepted this role. I mean, her defenders say that she's a consummate professional and there's no way she would ever allow her political opinions to cloud her judgment while she was a civil servant, and there's nothing specifically saying that senior civil servants can never take a job with a political party. That said, it's pretty much unprecedented for someone at such a high level to go pretty much straight into the office of the leader of the opposition so soon after going. And it does shed... There's a very good piece by Charles Moore in the Telegraph today suggesting that Sue Gray, whether or not her judgment is actually clouded by her political beliefs, the appearance of it matters almost as much. So already we've seen Boris Johnson come out fighting, sounding very bolshy about this interim report into Partygate, saying that it's astonishing that the Privileges Committee are putting so much weight on Sue Gray's report, essentially suggesting that it's invalidated by the fact that she's now gone over to Labour. Then there's this question of, what would Sue Gray herself have done as the ethics investigator?
Yeah. Well, I said to you when we bumped into each other at the beginning of the day, what I couldn't quite understand was why they published these initial thoughts when it's only a few days before they'll have Boris Johnson and others in front of them on camera going for it live.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I'm not sure it's a particularly politically savvy move from the Privileges Committee to do this, because Boris Johnson himself and his friends in the party, and let's remember there are still a lot of friends, will say that the timing of it is pretty fishy, and that they are trying to sort of shore up the Sue Gray report at a time when its findings are looking a little murkier than they were when they came out. So, yes, I don't think it's given them a hand.
Back to the phones and then come back and chat to us again a little bit later on, if you'd be so kind. But for the time being, thanks for getting it started so brilliantly. Olivia Utley, GB News political correspondent there.